In this video, you'll send data to TagoIO over HTTP in two different ways, the standard TagoIO API and the new TagoTiP HTTP endpoint, and see the same reading land on the same dashboard. TagoIO gives you two ways to send data over HTTP, and the right choice depends on where your code runs. The standard TagoIO API has been around since day one. You post a JSON body to the /data API route with a device token header. A typical request is around 487 bytes and needs a JSON serializer on the device. The TagoTiP HTTP endpoint is new. Same transport, but the body is a compact TagoTiP frame instead of a JSON, and the endpoint is http.tip.yourregion.tago.io. The same reading drops from 487 bytes to about 130, and the frame builds with one single sprintf call. No JSON library is necessary on the device. Both arrive in the same bucket. Pick the standard API when you're calling from a server, an analysis, or an environment where JSON is already normal, or pick TagoTiP HTTP when you're writing firmware for a constrained device and bytes and code size matter. We'll send the same temperature reading through both. First, the standard API with Postman, then the TagoTiP endpoint with curl. Let's get started with the standard API. Go to the Devices section and click New Device. Search for the custom HTTPS network and select it. Name your device and create it. Once it's created, open it and copy the device token from the Tokens tab. The standard API authenticates per device with this token. No hash, no serial in the payload. Next, let's go to the regional endpoint. The endpoint data depends on your account region. For US accounts, use http.tago.us-e1.tago.io/data. And for EU, use http.api.eu-w1.tago.io/data. On your device page, open the Live Inspector tab and click Inspect. With this now on, you'll see the request arrive and get parsed the moment you hit Send in Postman. Let's open up Postman and create a new request. Set the method to post and the URL api.us-e1.tago.io/data. Under headers, add device-token with the token you copied. Under body, select raw and paste this JSON. The shape is an array of objects, one object per variable. Add more objects to send multiple variables in the same request. So now let's hit send and see what we get in the inspector. So when you click send, you'll get a 200 OK back with a JSON response. That includes status equals true and confirms the data was stored. The inspector shows the raw JSON arriving and the data point being stored. That's the full standard HTTP flow. Now the same reading, same result, but through the TagoTiP endpoint. Watch how smaller this request gets. In your TagoIO profile, open the authorization section and create a new authorization. Set the token format to TagoTiP and copy the 16-character token hash. One hash authorizes data for every device under your profile. You don't need a separate token for each device. Next, the device. In the Devices section, click Add Device. Search for the TagoTiP network and pick the HTTP connector. Enter 123.123 as the serial number. The serial goes in the URL path and tells TagoIO which device the incoming request belongs to. Now the regional endpoint. For US accounts, use http.tip.us-e1.tago.io. For EU accounts, use http.tip.eu-w1.tago.io. The http.tip prefix is what routes the request to the TagoTiP parser instead of the standard API. On the new device, open the Live Inspector tab and click Inspect. You'll see the frame arrive the moment you run the curl command. Time to send the request. A quick note on the tool. Curl is what we show on the screen because it shows the whole request in one line. In this case, it's a demo tool. The important part is the frame that goes on the wire, not the program sending it. The request has three parts. The URL path ends in the device serial. The authorization header carries your token hash prefixed with TagoTiP. The body is a plain TagoTiP frame, no JSON, no envelope, just a bracket block. The response is a single character, 1. That's the number of data points stored. Compared to the JSON envelope Postman showed to you, that's the overhead TagoTiP strips away. Here's what the same request looks like on a real device. 1 SN printf to build the frame, 3 lines to set up the client, 1 line to post. No JSON library, no object serialization, no dynamic allocation. On an ESP32 or similar board, that's the full uplink code. The inspector shows the frame arriving and being stored. Same result as the standard API with fewer bytes on the wire and fewer lines of code on the device. With the data landing from both the endpoints, the last step is to see it. Let's create a new dashboard and add a display widget for each device using the temperature variable. The widget updates in real time regardless of which endpoint sent the data. Once the reading is in your bucket, the source doesn't matter. You've now seen both HTTP paths side by side. Use the standard HTTP API when you're calling from a server, a third-party service, or an analysis. Anywhere JSON and device token are already the norm. Use the TagoTiP HTTP endpoint when you're on a constrained device, and every byte and every line of code counts. You can mix them freely across devices in the same profile. From here, build analysis scripts to run logic on your data, set up actions to trigger alerts, or extend your dashboard to share with the rest of your team.